76 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. Guys, we're moving on to the Arizona State Sun Devils, and this is a team that quite simply put, is possibly the biggest dumpster fire in all of college football. Well, Nate, what exactly do you mean by that? Well, I'm going to talk about it. So Arizona State had quite a decent year last year, and it felt like Arizona State was taking steps in the right direction. Next thing you know, there are recruiting violations. The transfer portal gets really active. A lot of coaches are gone. This is an Arizona State team that can surprise some people, and maybe, will they push for a bowl game in 2022, or is the dumpster fire going to rage on in the next offseason as well? So what's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I know that was not the smoothest transition to my intro, but hey, we're talking about the Arizona State Sun Devils, and I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, guys. That means I'm doing your favorite teams. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, so you know when that video gets uploaded. And for fans of the Sun Devils out there, you guys are going to know a lot more about this team than me. You guys are going to know a lot more about what's going on behind the curtain in terms of all the news stories that have broken this college football offseason. So if you guys feel like I missed something, like to add something, please leave it in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Sun Devils team. So let's talk about Arizona State in 2022. This is my 9th ranked team in the Pac-12 coming in. And again, as I said earlier, this was a promising team last year, and they had some real good stats. 388 yards per game with around 28 points per game. Okay, they were scoring quite a bit for as much they were gaining, but you want to see that yards per game get up. And statistically, this was the second best defense in terms of yards per game last year, with only 329 yards allowed last year, with around 21 points per game allowed. So this is definitely an Arizona State team that was promising last year and looking to try to take those next steps up. And I thought this was going to be a pretty solid team until the recruiting violations started to come out and coaches started leaving, and more coaches and also players started leaving. I mean, look at all the names on this list. We're going to go through them. I'm going to give you stats on some of them. Strap in, because it's a lot of really important names, this Arizona State team. So quarterback Jayden Daniels is gone. I know he didn't play that well last year, but Jayden Daniels was still a fairly solid part of this offense. And again, I know his touchdown interception ratio and everything like that. I'm just trying to get my stats to load, but he was still a phenomenal part. And I think that his ceiling was pretty high, and we saw that freshman year what Jayden Daniels can really be. But he had 2,380 yards, 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, rocking around a 65% completion percentage. So definitely not up to par for Jayden Daniels' standpoint last season, but we've seen what he can be. He's transferred over to try to win the starting job at LSU. Running back Rachaad White was a 1,000-yard rusher. He is gone, had 1,006 yards, 15 touchdowns, and they lose a lot in the wide receiver end too. Ricky Purcell, Johnny Wilson, LV Bunkley, Shelton, and Curtis Hodges are all pass catchers that are gone, that are leaving this Arizona State team. Couple offensive linemen are gone there as well. Otherwise, on the defensive end, one of the better pass rushers on this team, Jermaine Lowell, probably you could say the best pass rusher, he is gone. DJ Davidson is gone, had 57 tackles a season ago. And then Tyler Johnson, who had 36 tackles and 4 sacks, and those 4 sacks were second on the team a season ago. You also have guys like Eric Gentry, who's gone. Really, really good linebacker, had 45 tackles a season ago, and he has since gone to USC. Darian Butler, Chip Trayanum was a running back that Ohio State's going to use as a linebacker, so he's transferred out. DeAndre Pierce, Chase Lucas. Chase Lucas had 34 tackles, 6 passes defended. And Jack Jones, 6 passes defended, 3 interceptions. Darian Butler, 68 tackles, 3 interceptions. Just so much talent leaving this team. And Arizona State, in my opinion, did what they could in reloading in the portal. I mean, you got Emory Jones at quarterback, the former Florida guy, played at Florida last season. A lot of people thought that Anthony Richardson, there it is, should have started at quarterback, but it was Emory Jones for most of the year last season. And he recognized that Anthony Richardson, they were starting to trend the way of him with Billy Napier coming in. So Jones transferred out, and they're also getting an Alabama transfer in Paul Tyson there as well. Running back Xavier Valade is one of my favorite players in the nation. I'll go outright and say that. I love Xavier Valley. Not only is it a cool name, but he's a really good back too, and is going to come in to replace the likes of Rashad White. You also have Daniel Ngata back there at the running back position. Cam Johnson is a Vandy transfer coming over. Should provide a nice lift to this offense. Andre Johnson, Jalen Conyers, Messiah Swinson. Going to be some other pass catchers for this Arizona State team. And when you look at the defensive end, I mean, just more transfers coming in, right? Nesta Jade Silvera is a transfer from Miami. Anthony Cooper coming back for this team. Merlin Robertson is one of my favorite players, not only on this team, but one of my favorite players in the nation. Had 64 tackles last year, 3 interceptions. They had 3 guys with 3 interceptions last year. Kyle Sowell. There should be an E instead of an A at the end of that name, so I apologize. But Kyle Sowell was the leading tackler last year. Had 82 of them, 1 sack and a pick as well. He is coming back on this team. And then defensive backs, you have Tamarcus Davis coming back, and then Chris Edmonds and Karoy Bethley. I know I said that name wrong. I apologize. Are both transfers coming in for this team. So a lot of transfers leaving this team, a lot of transfers coming in from this team, and what you don't see on this board is just the amount of coaching changes. I mean, I could go on about the coaching changes, and I don't have the list in front of me for that, but lots of coaches gone off this Arizona State team. This is effectively, besides Herm Edwards, who you could argue is really the dog in the fire of this dumpster fire, is a brand new football team for the most part. And let's look at what this football team's schedule looks like in 2022. So non-conference, you have a home game against Northern Arizona and a home game against Eastern Michigan. Probably should end up being fairly simple games there, but then that road game against Oklahoma State is the non-conference game that everybody is going to be looking at for this Arizona State team. You got home games in Pac-12 play against Utah, Washington, UCLA, Oregon State, and then you got to go on the road to play USC, Stanford, Colorado, Washington State, and Arizona. So let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into the Sun Devil schedule. Oklahoma State, the non-conference game that is interesting, right? That jumps out to me, and I think jumps out to a lot of people as well. Oklahoma State is a team that can compete for the Big 12. Simply, end of story. I know Jim Knowles is gone. Spencer Sanders isn't the greatest of quarterbacks, right? Or at least he hasn't shown, in my opinion, his full potential as of yet. But that's an Oklahoma State team that, make no mistake, can compete and make a run at a Big 12 title. And it's an Oklahoma State team that I think Arizona State's going to have a very hard time against when they have to go on the road there and play that game. When you're looking at some other games here on the schedule, when you get into Pac-12 play, I mean, Utah, USC, UCLA, on the road against Washington State, on the road. I mean, just this entire Pac-12 slate is going to be tricky for Arizona State. I mean, on the road against USC, probably going to be your hardest game of the year. If not, it's that home game against Utah. And Arizona State opens conference play like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see Arizona State start out 2-1 and then maybe go on to lose 4 or 5 straight. It's just, it's an absolute possibility, because then in the middle there, you got Stanford on the road, Washington at home. Stanford's got an NFL caliber quarterback in Tanner McKee. Washington, I know they weren't great last year, but they should be able to bounce back and have a better season in 2022. When you look at this UCLA squad, that figures to be a really, really interesting and a pretty solid team going in to 2022. When you look at Washington State there as well, that's a team that I don't feel like people in the Pac-12 should take lightly this year. Same thing with Oregon State. And Arizona is a team that, in my opinion, is improving and is getting better. So there's a lot of interesting games on this Arizona State schedule. And this is an Arizona State team that's going to be interesting to watch, because whether or not, again, they do good, bad, a lot of focus is going to fall on the recruiting violations and what happens to them from there, right? Now, I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based. I like to predict the team's record, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself with kind of wrapping this video up, so I apologize. But games in red, games that I don't necessarily see you winning. Games in orange are games that I still don't think you're going to win, but hey, it's college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that you should win, but you got to watch out for teams on the other side of the ball, and games in green are games that you are good to win. So, when looking at games in green, Northern Arizona, Eastern Michigan, see Arizona State going 2-0 in those games. No problem at all. So there's 2 wins. Otherwise, that road game against Oklahoma State in non-conference play, I have in orange. That's going to be a very difficult game for Arizona State to win. It's not that I don't think they have the talent to do it. I mean, the quarterback, wide receiver, especially the wide receiver position, I think is going to be a big question mark. But I think Arizona State itself is one big question mark going in there. Turn that pitchfork there into a big old question mark, because there's a lot of unknown going into this Arizona State season. But just talking about it from a football perspective, on the road against Oklahoma State, that's going to be a very, very tough environment for Arizona State to win in. I don't see them likely coming out of Stillwater with a W. So more likely than not, you're probably going to get a 2-1 start, but then the gauntlet of Pac-12 play begins. And you start out with Utah and USC, two games that are highlighted in orange. I don't like Arizona State's chances in either of those. However, there are 4 games in yellow down the road. So you got at home against Washington. Again, you get Washington at home. It's going to be interesting to see what Washington looks like in 2022 as well. They had some high expectations last year and kind of fell off, right? We're just not that good of a team in 2021, and they're looking to turn that around in 2022. On the road at Stanford and Colorado could prove to be some fairly tricky games there for Arizona State. Colorado, while they don't have a lot of talent, still a team that can push and win a game or two here and there, but that offense has got to improve for Colorado drastically. And for Stanford, they have an NFL caliber quarterback in Tanner McKee and lots of great players surrounding him. So watch out for Stanford. UCLA, that figures to be a really good football team under Chip Kelly, moving in the right direction. And Arizona State gets them at home. That's an upset that a lot of people are picking to happen here in 2022. On the road against Washington State, I do think that's going to be a hard one for Arizona State to win. That's a borderline orange-yellow game, but it's more towards the orange because the game is on the road. And even that rivalry game on the road against Arizona, a game that a lot of people can look at and say, oh, well, Arizona State should win that one. Arizona is a team that is improving. Mark my words on that. I do think Arizona is getting better. But overall, the elephant in the room about this Arizona State team are the recruiting violations and all the transfer talent that you are losing on this team. And it's an Arizona State team that I think is going to have to deal with a lot in 2022. And I don't necessarily see Arizona State being that good in 2022. I got them going 4-8. Herm Edwards, he's the dog in the fire. He's the dog in the fire. That's a guy there at Herm Edwards, in Herm Edwards, I should say, that we'll see if he lasts this season. We'll see what Arizona State does. We'll see what the athletic program decides to do, if they go in a different direction, if they keep him. I'm not denying that the talent is there, but there's a lot of coaching changes, a lot of new faces. It's just a lot of new, right? And it's a lot of new, and with the recruiting violations behind them too, it's a dumpster fire right now in Tempe. There's no other way to describe it. I could see this team making a bowl game, and I could see this team finishing last in the Pac-12. It's going to be one of those kind of seasons. I think Arizona State's going to be one of the more interesting teams to follow throughout the course of the year, but ultimately I have them falling short of the postseason. So let me know what you guys think about the Sun Devils in the comment section below, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, anything like that helps support the channel. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.